Okay, so earlier this week, I watched this anime called My Tiny Senpai. I had seen an ad for it about a year ago. Ish, I think I want to say it was around like July or August. But anyways, I had seen an ad for it on Twitter, and the vibe I got from the trailer was it was going to be a rom com, something pretty light about a short, well endowed woman working in an office. So there might be a nice amount of focus on just the office life, maybe some of the politics, and I thought it was going to be just a good time. Maybe not necessarily wholesome. Maybe it was going to be a bit more jiggly, I suppose. But either way, I might have a pretty good time with it. If it wants to be a good like rom com, it could do that. If it wants to be schlock, it can be schlock. There's both of those can work. And I finally got around to watching it, and I was phenomenally disappointed. I watched the first episode, and it was so bland and so like nothing and underwhelming, and like oh boy, I don't know if I want to watch 11 episodes of this. But on the other hand, like I've watched other shows that didn't start off super hot. I love Clannad. Didn't leave the best first impression with me. I love. Didn't leave a great first impression with Extra. And it's like, all right, I'll push through it. I'll see how it goes. And as I said, I loved both of those. I'm like, but I don't know about this. So I'll be honest. I binged it in one sitting. Actually, I don't know if it was technically one sitting. I might have like went for a walk at some point. But in one day. But I did it at 2.5 times speed. Wait, I say 2.5? No, like 2 times speed. And we just kind of skimming through the scenes. It's like, okay, I'm still watching and paying attention, but also just, is this gonna get good or get interesting? The short answer is kind of, sort of, almost, but ultimately no. And I think for me, the big problem is I feel like the show falls into three different genres at the same time. I think on the one hand, it really wants to be a rom com. On the other hand, it really wants to be just a waifu sim. And on the other hand, because I guess we got some radioactive waste, we got three hamsters, Shaolin Showdown, we got the third arm sash. Wasn't expecting to pull that reference out of the bag today, but here we are. Um, but on that third hand, it kind of does want to be a slice of life about the workplace and the workplace environment. And I feel like any one of those can be an interesting show. And I like wrote different examples of different interesting shows that like pull these off. But I don't think it does a good job of any of them. And it just feels really flat and bland. I feel like that's an episode. That's a word I'm going to be using a lot. I think it's very bland, or I think it's very, I guess just not interesting. Is there something else I had said? I don't know, but that's kind of my main thesis going into this. So going into those genres, because I'm gonna go genre by genre. Let's start with rom com. To me, a rom com needs to have at least one of three things for me to get invested and want to watch it. Number one, I have to actively like the couple and I have to actively root for them. An example that comes to mind is a show called Ore Monogatari, which has nothing to do with the actual Monogatari series. It's I saw this years ago, so I'm a bit fuzzy on some of the specifics, like character names. But the basic plot is there's this I'm gonna say high school, maybe it's middle school, but like this really big, just like stacked dude with this goofy face, who's just the nicest, sweetest man you'd ever meet in your life. And he ends up meeting this girl on a train who's like very petite, but also just like very sweet. They end up becoming friends, and he just wants her to be happy. And he thinks that she has a crush on his best friend, and he's trying to set them up, but she actually has a crush on him. And they actually don't really waste your time with it. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of what we're going to be doing the whole show. No, I think it's like episode 3 or 4. They actually get together, and then you see them working on their relationship. Like, these are just two adorable sweethearts interacting with each other, and I just kind of want the best for them. That's the kind of thing I want to see. And I feel like it's a very charming show, and I have no problem watching it. I think the other kind of thing I need in a rom-com is, even if I'm not necessarily rooting for the characters as a couple, like I don't ship them, I watch it because I find them really interesting as people. I really like them as characters. And I think for me, a great example of that is Toradora. Watching Toradora, I was like, I know where this is going. Hey, you like my best friend, I like your best friend, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's become friends, and I'll help you win her, you'll help me win him. Like, let me guess, by the end, they're gonna be the main couple, they're gonna fall in love, and blah, 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 and spoilers, sorry, but, like, that's exactly what ends up happening by the end. And by the end, it's like, I was on board with Ryuji and Taiga, though I don't feel like I was actively shipping it throughout the show's run. But I really like Ryuji and Taiga. And as the show goes on, like, I feel like there is quite a bit of depth to each person. There's a reason Ryuji is the way he is, and he feels like he's a distinct person, and not just, here's the bland male protagonist, so you can really get to know the female lead because she's the star of the show. Taiga feels like she is her own person, and getting to know more about them, about their family lives, about their histories, about... I was gonna say something and I completely lost it. It's something that made me really enjoy watching the show, even if I wasn't like, yeah, I'm super on board with the main couple. The other thing I feel like a rom-com needs, if I'm not super invested in the couple, if I'm not in their romance, and I'm not super invested in them as people, it at least needs to be funny. One of the best examples I can think of this is probably Sword Art Online Abridged. Kirito and Asuna are awful fucking people, and their relationship is so fucking toxic. Like, no, I'm not rooting for this couple. Like, no, these are both terrible people. But they're so funny and entertaining, and I will at least say... There is definitely depth to their characters, like Kirito in particular. It made me actually really like his character, which is something I couldn't say about the original show. But I felt, it was like, yeah, like, I mean, it's not to say that SAO Abridged is a rom-com, but it just, in terms of that relationship, I was invested in it, not because I liked the people, or it's because they were entertaining. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Even if they're not likable, if they're entertaining enough, if they're funny enough, it is a romantic comedy, at least make the comedy hit, you know? The problem with My Tiny Senpai is I feel like it kind of does none of the above. In terms of rooting for them, I just felt that both the leads were too bland to root for. Like, I dead ass don't remember the dude's name. I'm just gonna call him MC. Like, I'm trying to remember what his name is. Like, I can see his face in my head, and even then, like, it feels like a pretty bland, underwhelming, whatever design. It's... The only thing I remember from his character is that he would just fawn over anything Shiori did. Shiori is the name of the eponymous Tiny Senpai. I at least remember her name, I'll give her that. But it's kind of all he did. I don't know how much I've ever riffed on Sherlock, but Sherlock is a show I watched a few years ago. Like, I was in law school. I think the first 3 seasons were out, and I binged it, and I didn't really get into it. And for me, one of my biggest problems is how boring of a character Watson was. For me, it felt like all Watson really ever did was just talk about how good Sherlock was. Like, oh, dude, you're so brilliant. You're so cool. But I hate you. But you're so cool. You're so smart. I'm like, this doesn't feel like a character. This just feels like, hey, haven't you heard how cool the protagonist is? And that's what the main character of this feels like. Watson, at least, I thought was, like, acted well, and I don't know, there was at least the chemistry with Sherlock. I didn't find him particularly interesting, but I'll give him that. There was almost something really interesting with his character, like being a war veteran. Here, there was just nothing. And I'll say, like, if you're trying to do the waifu sim, which we'll talk about that in a second, there's nothing inherently wrong with saying, look, the main character is boring, he's bland, he's not supposed to be interesting, he is just a vehicle for the audience to experience the star of the show. And if that's what you're going for, that's fine. But specifically, if you're trying to get me to root for the romance, I have to actively root for the people involved. And when it comes to Shiori, she at least has memorable qualities, like the fact that she likes cats, she's very cat-like. There's a lot of just like little super deformed animation bits where she'll have like cat ears and a cat tail and be like, yeah, it's something I remember. It didn't do a lot for me. Like, I'm a cat person, like I love Micah Bahamut, but I don't know, this just didn't connect with me on any real kind of level. And I also found her really creepy. Like, there's this one episode, I'm gonna make up a number, I'm gonna say like episode 6, I don't know if that's accurate, where she and MC have to go, they have to go to like the storage room to get this one specific document. When they're in there, I think Shiori's like, oh yeah, there's a rumor that there's like these particular coworkers that will come here into this room when they're on break or even when they're not on break, and we'll just start like smooching and shit. And then that happens, and while the MC is kind of like, I actually don't remember what he was doing. I don't know if he was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't watch this, or if he was down to watch it. Shiori's just like, ooh, they're like kissing, let me just watch this. Like that, I don't know, that's kind of weird. It's kind of voyeurish. Oh, okay. They only are like start getting embarrassed about the situation when the two of them are going to start moving. They're like, oh shit, they're going to find us. They're going to find that we've been staring at them. We don't want to have that awkwardness happen. She's also, I guess I'll go and transition into this because the two things are very similar. There's, admittedly, there are moments between the two of them that are seemingly very cute and very sweet, and they almost work, but then there's these aspects of them that don't. Like, for example, I have a lot of examples written, by the way. The first one to come up in the first episode, I think it's only like a few minutes in, Shiori is talking about her shoulders. She's like, yeah, they feel like really stiff. I think it's my posture. I've been sitting at a desk the whole time, and MC is like, I don't think it's necessarily the posture. But, hey, if maybe you need a massage, is that something that could help? And I don't remember exactly what she says, but then he's imagining himself giving her a massage and her moaning, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Cool. Then he gets kind of embarrassed because he's imagining that, and then he's like, no, it's whatever, I'm just saying it because, sometimes I get massages, and I need a massage because my shoulders hurt. So then Shiori just gets up, goes behind him, and starts giving him a massage. And he's thinking to himself, like, oh, this is wonderful, this is heavenly, like, my super cute tiny senpai is giving me a massage, I'm in heaven. And all I'm thinking is, that's sexual harassment. He didn't ask her for a massage. And arguably, if he did, maybe he would have been sexually harassing. But it's not like, hey, my shoulders really hurt. Could you do me a solid, like, real quick? And it's not that she's like, hey, you need one. Like, would you like me to give you one? And then he says yes. She just does it. And it's supposed to come across, I think, it's like, oh, look, she's very nice. She's very sweet. She's just giving her man a massage. Audience member, isn't that something you would like when you've had a long, rough day? I'm like, sure. But she didn't ask. And for someone who's just her coworker, because that's something they establish is like partway through the show, like they clearly both have a thing for each other, but they're like, hey, let's just be coworkers. And then at the end, they're like, hey, let's be friends now. Like, okay, so now you're friends. Here you were just coworkers. That's very touchy-feely for someone who's just a coworker, and you didn't ask them first. It's the kind of thing where I look at it and go, if the genders were swapped, this wouldn't be seen as like, oh, isn't this sweet and she's so nice? It would be creepy as hell. Some other examples of this. Also in the first episode, MC has to give some kind of proposal for something. I don't remember. I don't think they super went into it. And something they talk about, is something I do actually see in other like anime and shit, is, draw the character for person on your palm and you swallow it. And it's a thing, I guess, in that culture that is supposed to kind of help with with anxiety and stage fright. And as he's explaining that to her, he's like, that's what I think I'm gonna do. She draws the character on her hand and then puts her hand right in front of his face. And she's like, okay, swallow it. Swallow it from my hand. And then he goes and he breathes and just she just moans as he breathes on her hand. And again, I'm thinking, this is supposed to be sweet. Like, hey, I want you to do well. You said that you're nervous, you're a little anxious, and this is something you do to help, so I want to do this to help you. That is sweet. But just like, hey, swallow my, put your mouth next to my hand. Huh? That's kind of weird. And again, for just co-workers, this is episode 1. It's not like we're a couple or we're very good friends and we clearly have this kind of relationship. I mean, I guess they clearly do, because how weirdly touchy-feely they are. It just feels like this is a bit much too quickly, and it's creepy. I don't remember if this was episode 1. I don't think it was. It might have been like episode 2. When he's staying a little late to work some overtime, and she shows up and she's like, hey, you know what? I see you're working really hard. You're putting in some extra hours. Tell you what, as your senpai, as your superior, I want to do you a solid. Let's go ahead and I will help you with this. Then we'll clock out, and I will treat you to dinner. It's my pleasure to do so. That's actually really nice. And then she's like, hey, I'm abusing my authority as your senpai to take you out for dinner and to treat you to dinner. You kind of can't say no. Like, oh, you had to make it weird. And again, if the genders were reversed and this was the junior, woman working late and after hours, and then her male superior shows up and is like, hey, you've been working really hard. Tell you what, how about we celebrate by me taking you out to dinner and I'm abusing my authority so you can't say no. Oh, that's a very different kind of show. And I don't like that. I'm sorry, but to me it's like, if it's creepy if a man does it to a woman, then it's creepy if a woman does it to a man. And that's just how I felt kind of consistently watching the show. And I will say, it's not... Oh, gosh, that's right. I was just looking at some of the other examples. So, I think Was it Valentine? No, I think it was around still Christmas. And there's chocolates in the office. And she wants him to feed her a chocolate. And, she's got her eyes closed and her mouth open, just waiting. And again, I'm like, for just coworkers, this is a really physical relationship. This is fucking weird. And she takes one, and there's alcohol in it, so she gets super drunk, and she goes to the other female employee and just hugs her and starts smooching on her. And then the manager's like, ooh, and starts taking pictures of that. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are we doing here? I don't think any of this is okay. There's a few times where she'll just start patting his head, and she's like, you've worked really hard. You're a good boy. And I'm like, it's not that I wouldn't appreciate that. But I know I keep repeating the point, but for me, they're very, very touchy-feely for just coworkers, and I don't see it as oh, this is really sweet and really charming. It's just weird. And it's not like this is happening. And here's the thing, too. If this was happening after hours while they're going on a date or getting to know each other better, it'd be one thing. This shit is happening in the middle of the office. Like, I don't know, Chief. This is just fucking weird. Sorry, now I'm trying to look at my note. Oh god, I forgot about that one. So this is one of those things that this is after hours. This is out of the office, so it's more theoretically okay. When they get each other Christmas presents. So what they do is there's a point where they're together, they're looking in a store window when they see these loungewears, like these onesies. One's a bear, one's, I think it was a rabbit. And each one's like, oh, he would look really cute in that. She would look really cute in that. So they end up buying it for each other and then swapping, and then they wear it separately, and they're like, oh, this is so nice, it's so warm, it's like she's hugging me or he's hugging me. And the idea of getting each other, because they kind of came in a set, or like they were advertising a set, essentially like matching onesies, is a really cute thing. Like, that's a very couple thing to do, and I think that's super neat, and I want to really like that. But with just how horny these two are, because they really are, I'm just watching it thinking, this feels less sweet and like super fetishy. It almost feels like each of them was like, hey, what if I got him or her like some sexy lingerie? Because that's kind of how it feels like it's presented, especially for her. And for your girlfriend, your boyfriend, that works. For your coworker, it's just weird. There's this one scene when he's teaching her how to swim. It's during the hot springs episode. They end up going to a pool. He's teaching her how to swim. And this feels like it could be a sweet moment of like, this is how you do this. She talks about how she doesn't know how to swim because she was very scared of it because she almost drowned when she was younger. Like, okay. This can be a nice bonding opportunity. It doesn't last long, though. It's not like, okay, this is what you do, blah, 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 blah. He's trying, but her boobs are kind of almost bouncing, and he's a bit distracted, and then he just gets a cramp and falls. He's like, oh shit, I guess I need her to save me. And then she goes to save him. And it's not like she's moving and being animated. It looks like they just kind of took the image of her and dragged it forward. It looks really bad. It takes what could have been like a genuine bonding moment between the two of them and then just says, hey, what if we skipped the part where he's teaching her and they bond and just skip to she saves him and then he falls and reaches out and then just grabs her top and yanks it off. So we completely skip the actual cute romance shit and we just get to the schlock. But even the schlock isn't like I said, like she's almost bouncing. Like it does. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be like it doesn't go all the way with it because it doesn't show anything. You don't have to. That's fine. I don't want to discredit a show for not being porn. But even then, the best way I feel like I can describe it, I'll talk about it a little bit more later because I have more to say about this aspect. It feels like it wants to be fan servicey, but isn't fan servicey enough. Like it's not jiggly enough, I guess is the best way to say it. It feels very cheap in that regard. And I don't want to say cheap as in like you're not showing me enough, like you piece of shit kind of thing. It's just like, no, like it's even like I said, when she's swimming towards it, it's not like, man, you see her swimming, you see the effort, it's just a still image moving forward, like they were cheap and didn't want to animate things. It's like, okay, so in terms of the rom-com and rooting for the couple and them being like a really cute and charming couple, I think it consistently fails. So the next part, it's like, all right, well, are they interesting people that have a lot of depth to them and I like to see it? No. Hell no, there is no depth to this main character. He is boring as sin. You could put a pie tin on the screen and it would have the same effect. Shiori isn't much better. To me, the closest I ever got to thinking like, oh, we're maybe doing something here is when she does say like, I don't know how to swim because when I was a kid I almost drowned. That's a fear. That's like a primal fear that people have. Okay, this is maybe interesting, and that's why I was kind of excited to see him teaching her how to swim. This is how you can conquer your fear. There's something you can do, and it makes this genuine connection. And instead, it's like, all right, practice holding your breath. Well, that didn't work. Now try doing this to practice holding your breath. Oh no, I have a cramp, and then she just swims to save him with no issue. We skipped the part that should have been good and impactful because there is no depth to either of these people. They are not interesting, and as a result, I don't care. I guess clearly I care enough to make this long-ass video, but it's not like, man, I was so invested. It was like, this was so impressively nothing that I have to talk about how nothing it was. And then as for being a comedy and being super entertaining, I just didn't find it funny. There's like a good amount of innuendo and like it's not super clever or super funny. One of the show's favorite gags is setting up a situation and then a character saying something else entirely, and the joke was pretty obvious every time. So instead of being like, oh man, that's actually really funny bait and switch or like a non sequitur, it's like, no, I kind of figured out your humor already. It's just not working now. There's Shiori's whole like cat motif, which is supposed to be funny with how it's presented. It just didn't really make me laugh. You have their manager actively shipping them, which is kind of almost funny. Like there's this one part that kind of made me laugh a little bit, where the two of them have this really fucking weird dream. And it's the exact same dream that both of them have. And I think I talk about it a little bit later, but let's go ahead and say it now. So he has this dream where he's walking down the street because Shiori is a cat. He sees this box that says, please adopt me. And there's a cat inside, but it's not a cat. It's Shiori dressed as a cat and just going, meow, meow. And he goes, oh, who would have been in this little bitty kitty? And then she crawls out and like starts purring and meowing and licking him. What the fuck is this? And then he wakes up in like a cold sweat and then gets a text from the manager saying, hey, don't worry about the dream. And then Shiori has the same thing happen to her. And I won't lie, hey, don't worry about the dream, like that's so weird, but it's kind of funny. I will give it that. But I was also just like, look, I'm not trying to kink shame. If that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But for me, like, I'm not. This was a bit much for me. No thanks there, man. I also mentioned, like, there's this one scene when the manager, like, Shiori is drunk and is, like, being really huggy with Hayakawa, who's one of the coworkers, and the manager goes, and starts taking pictures. Like, I don't find that funny. That feels really creepy. It's like, one of my coworkers is drunk and is now having, like, an almost lesbian moment. I'm gonna take pictures of this. That's called a lawsuit. Like, no, that feels like sexual harassment too. MC has a sister, and when I first met her, I was like, oh, she's kind of a baddie. She's very attractive. I can't wait to see more of the sister. And his sister is like very kind of, I don't want to say like stern or strict, but she's like, hey, you're acting different. I think you have a girlfriend. Tell me about her. Like, I'm going to know everything. And then she sees Shiori and just goes, oh, you're the cutest thing ever. And then just like runs up to her and like grabs her and starts playing with her hair. Like, this is the animation too for like bouncing her hair. I'm like, oh, no, you're a weirdo too. And it's not funny to me. It just feels like this show is so damn creepy. It just never stops being creepy. However, I do want to shout out some moments that actually did kind of make me laugh or like smile a little bit. Because it's not that they didn't happen, and I feel like it would be disingenuous to not point them out. You get a scene later of like the first time they met. This is, I don't remember when in the show, like episode 9 or something like that. And MC is like trying to log on to his computer and something like that. And he's kind of having some difficulty with it. He's like, oh shit, I actually don't think I know my password. And he looks over at Shiori, and she's just like very stone faced looking at him. And he's like, oh shit. What is this? Is she, I feel like I'm being judged. Is this, I'm supposed to ask her for help? And the fact that I take too long to ask her for help, like, is it a secret test of character? If I ask her for help, is she gonna go, you're already asking me for help without trying it first? You're really bad. Or is it gonna be like, I'm struggling here, and then I ask, and she goes, it took you that long to ask for help? Come on, that is wasting company time. You gotta be efficient. He's like, fuck, I don't know what to do. And then Shiori, on the other hand, is just sitting there stone faced thinking, we have a new employee, and I want to be really nice. I want to be his friend, but I know the boss is right there, and he's watching, and if I just start being really nice to this guy, he's probably just going to make fun of me for it, so I can't. I have to be stern. I have to be in boss employee mode. Like, she just, like, the Starlight Glimmer serious business face. Like, it's kind of something like that, and, like, genuinely, I think that scene is pretty funny. There's a scene later when she thinks she got taller because she's wearing like platform boots and doesn't really realize that. She's like, huh, I'm a little bit taller. Hey, MC, does anything about me look different? Your hair smells a little bit different. I'm like, okay, that's, I don't know, maybe that's kind of a little weird. And even after he says it, he's like, that was kind of weird. I don't think I should have said that. She goes, hi. I mean, you're right. Like, I am using a new shampoo. I didn't think you'd notice. Huh. But it's not that. And it's a pretty fun little scene. It's like, oh, it's because she's wearing boots. Like, I don't know. It's not, like, grade A material, but most of the show isn't either. So it at least kind of gave me something. There is this one scene I talked about earlier, like there's these two employees that are sneaking out and smooching in the other. You were smooching with everyone. You were smooching with Cliff. Sorry, I just reminded that shit. And yeah, her being like a happy voyeur is really creepy, but there's a scene later during lunch when those two were like smooching again in front of other people, and including Shiori, and their expression watching this like public display of affection is actually really funny. There's also a character who works in the office who's, because they're the company they work for, it's like this mascot company for this cat thing, and I don't remember what it's like, Meow Taro or something. I'm just gonna say Mishi because I like trails, and there is a few times where I'm like, okay, this feels like Tio is talking right now about like her insane obsession with Mishi. But there's this one character in the office who's like, okay, here's what I want to do to celebrate Mishi and how great Mishi is. I'm going to make an Otome game with Mishi as like the protagonist or like the person you're trying to romance, but it's an anthropomorphic. It's an anthro version of Mishi, and Shiori's like, oh, I'm so excited, it's so cute. Huh. That's weird, and this isn't what I'm expecting. And then later you meet another employee named Kurusu, who, sorry, I said the name and I just thought of Steins Gate, but who's also like super big into Mishi, and then she's like, an Otome game where you can romance Mishi, I'm so excited. What do you mean it's an anthro Mishi? What the fuck? Like, actually, again, thought that was pretty funny. So, but generally overall, I don't think the comedy aspect of the rom-com is very good. I don't think the characters are interesting enough for me to really want to see, like, and get to know them. And I don't think their actual romance, is charming enough or sweet enough. And in the times when it almost starts to be, it's creepy. Like, there's this veneer of creepiness to me in their interactions that just makes me go like, you kind of ruined it for me. But that's genre number one. Surely one of the other two genres it's trying to do will actually work. God, it's already been 35 minutes. Oh boy. So genre number two is being a waifu sim, which to me is kind of what I was talking earlier, where it's like, look, your male character isn't really a character. They're just here to be a vehicle to experience the female lead. For you, the sad, lonely audience member, to say, hey, isn't this the kind of woman you want? Isn't this the kind of experience you want? And I feel like, and I'll be honest, I'm not like a connoisseur of waifu sims, but I feel like with what I understand about these kinds of series, it's either a character with very dramatic proportions, a character who is very affectionate towards a very bland lead for kind of no real reason, is kind of fetishy, or is some combination of the three, like all of the above. And I think Tawawa on Monday is this trope perfected. Like, you don't even see the faces and the eyes of your male characters. If you're not familiar with it, it's like a comic strip that has a couple like short anime adaptations and I think a manga as well. And the idea was, from my understanding, the creator is like, look, I understand how like depressing and soul crushing it is being a salaryman, just working a 9 to 5, if not longer, in an office job with no real prospects, and you just don't like what you do. So what I was doing is I would draw like a pinup of a beautiful, well-endowed young woman, and I would post them on Mondays to just kind of give you that little bit of inspiration and just that little bit of happiness early in the week. And, sorry, brain stop for a second. It has the dramatic proportions and these dramatically proportionate characters are attracted to male characters that, like I said, you don't even see their faces. You don't really get to know a lot about their characters or their personality. They're just kind of there. They really are blank slates for the audience member to say, this is something that could happen to me. I could meet a nice young woman who really likes me and blah, blah, blah. And even in just like the comic strips, it's hard to say it's very jiggly in a still image, but like they do, it's not like, again, it's not like it's straight up porn. Like there's a lot they don't show, but with what they do show, they do a lot with it. And in the anime is very jiggly. Both seasons of it. And like, okay, that's kind of what it's trying to do. And I've never seen Uzaki, but from what I understand, like from the little bits I have seen, it kind of does the same thing. Like, I don't know how interesting the main character is because I haven't read it. Maybe I am genuinely doing it a disservice, and if so, my apologies. But from what I understand, it's like, okay, here is your dramatically proportioned character, Sugoi Takai, who is like, hey, this is the person I want, this is the person I'm super attracted to, that I'm just gonna bother, and I know they do a lot with her assets from the things that I have seen. And I feel like My Tiny Senpai has, I don't want to say it, what was the word I read? The hallmarks, thank you. It has the hallmarks of a waifu sim. We've got a really bland, blank slate protagonist. We have a very well-endowed, dramatically proportioned character, to the point where literally the first scene of the show is of her boobs and not her face. It's like from around like her nose down, you can kind of see the chest, and then it just pans down and shows her chest. You're like, okay, this is the kind of show we're in. Gotcha. She's constantly described as being very cute and very wifely. There's scenes when like she's patting his head, but it's from his POV. It's not like, all right, we're seeing her and him in the same shot. So you're really just seeing, again, this very sweet, described as this cute, wifely woman patting you on the head and saying, hey, you've done a good job. You've worked really hard. You're such a good boy. I'm so proud of you. And you're like, okay, that's the kind of show this is. Got it. The problem is, I don't think, as I've said before, I don't think she's interesting enough for it to really work. If you are doing a waifu sim, like, it is about this character, and we are trying to make you, the audience member, fall in love with her. You either have to make me love her by making her super interesting, or you have to go all, and again, I'm not saying you have to go full porn, but you have to make the fan service hit. And it doesn't do either. I don't think Shiori is that interesting. Oh, sorry, I was getting a message from Clay. I'll talk to him about it later. They don't do a lot to make her super interesting. Is she likable? Sure, but even then, I'm like, she still kind of creeps me out. I'm like, okay, if I was her coworker, if I was her junior, and she's looking after me, and she's like, hey, you seem a little stressed. Let me just give you a massage. I'm like, okay, like, this feels nice, but also, huh? I don't think we're supposed to do this. Like, I don't know. I feel like I would be really creeped out, too. And, like I said, even when it's being fan servicey, like, they put her in a lot of cute outfits, but it's not like, oh, okay, and then you see, like, when she walks, or, like, you'll see a scene of her, like, very, very bouncy. That just doesn't happen. They'll emphasize her chest with some static shots, but I don't know. It just doesn't quite hit, I guess. It feels very underwhelming with how they write the character and how, I guess, they show the character. And I just didn't feel like it really worked in either sense. So then, the final thing that I feel like the show is almost kind of trying to do is just be a slice of life about working in a workplace. You're working for this mascot company. They're in a marketing position. They're like in development, I think, where they're supposed to come up with ideas, proposals, blah, blah, blah. So, I think to do a show like this, when you're about office life and politics, there's a few different ways you could do it. You could try to make, like, it is this very crushing, cutthroat, oppressive kind of job, but having this coworker that you really like, she just kind of brightens up your day just enough. It's something that helps you. It's something that helps. And I think writing it like that would have made the romance that much more sweet, because you see, kind of like Zom 100, where I can't remember his name. I feel really bad about that, but I didn't feel like he was a bland character. I really liked him. Is how much he hated his life and his job, but having this one coworker that he liked, and how she literally just brightened up his day. That's something that can make me really root for a couple. Or, excuse me. Or, on the other hand, if you don't want to do something like that, you could do a series about, like, sorry, face really itchy. It could be more of a character study about, like, okay, whether we're focusing on Shiori, whether we're focusing on the main character, this is what life is like working in this particular industry, in this particular field, and kind of the ins and outs of it. I can think of a really good example off the top of my head, Shirobako. I mean, that's not off the top of my head, I wrote it down. But even as I was thinking about it, it's the first fucking thing that came to mind. Shirobako is all about working in anime, in the anime industry. It's about the stress of it. It's about the grind of it. But also that sense of fulfillment from working in the industry you love. And when you get to see a project come together, and just how good that feels. It's about a woman with passion, but she lacked the talent to do what she wanted, which was to be an animator. And her friends who all said, we want to be in the industry, and some of them are, but not in the way they wanted, and others are not there yet, but they're trying, or they're in something completely unrelated, but they're kind of able to make it work. And it's how do I say it? It's about passion and pride in your work and pushing through against all odds. That's, to me, what Shirobako was about, especially the movie. The movie made me cry, and it's specific. I don't remember remember if the show did. I think, I think it did when Shizuka is actually like gets cast in the role, and I'm like, that part I think did make me cry. But the part in the movie when it's during the song, this like really goofy, over the top musical number made me cry the first time I see it. And it is because it is this character just at the end of their rope with all of this pressure saying, I'm gonna do it. And I know it's gonna be hard, and I know it's gonna suck. But I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna come out the other side, and I'm gonna be proud of what I was able to create. Because even with all this bullshit, I am going to create something. And it is going to be art. I loved that. Like, it resonated with me so strongly. And then we have Sakura Quest, also known as the best damn thing mankind has ever made or could ever hope to make. It is about a group of women working in this small, like, town in the middle of nowhere. I don't remember what it's called. I'm just gonna call it Hinamizawa. It's very different tone from Igarashi. But this kind of Hinamizawa-ass town in the sticks. And then working on the like tourism board, like, all right, this is the committee on how to like really revitalize the town and keep the kids from leaving and get more people in. And so you've got the main character who always wanted to work in the city but didn't have a job and is like, I guess I have to work in this rinky-dink shit town and I don't want to do this, but genuinely finds fulfillment there. And then one of her friends who's always lived in this rinky-dink piece of shit Hinamizawa ass in the sticks boondocks looking town and has never felt the need to leave because of how much it means to her and the connection she has. Then you've got the other girl who wanted to leave and did leave the first chance she got, but couldn't make it out in the city, and so she had to come back and is taking all that baggage with her. Then the other friend who's, she's the city slicker who did have that like hustle bustle, like very stressful, fast-paced life, and then said, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I kind of want to go somewhere out into the country. I want something that's a lot more slow paced so I can be peaceful and relaxed and be happy. And seeing them working together and living their lives and getting to know each other, it is this deeply human experience. And it's genuinely beautiful to watch. My Tiny Senpai isn't this like human experience or this fulfilling experience. It's just kind of there. Like, there's no character to study. There's no real passion to pursue. The workplace is just a backdrop. And again, that's not inherently a bad thing if the romance really worked and our leads were super interesting. I wouldn't be saying it's like, man, it's a really bad workplace drama if I was talking about how much I loved the rom-com aspect. But it's not good at that. So I'm like, is it at least good at this? And in a couple episodes, I think it's 10 and 11, it actually kind of does. It's about like, okay, we've got this competition that we do every year between our first year employees where they submit a proposal and the winning team, we get a prize, and this other team shows up and is like, hey, so here's the thing, we're gonna win and then we're gonna take your manager because your manager is a really good employee. Like, he's a cuckoo land, but he is a good employee and my manager really likes him, like not necessarily like a romantic way, but it's like wants to work with him and thinks they can do really well together. So I'm gonna win the competition for my manager to take your manager. Fuck you. Like, oh shit, we've got an actual like workplace thing going on. We got workplace politics. There's some actual stakes. Shit is getting good. Shit is getting interesting. Then they do the proposals. I'm like, oh wait, this is actually like kind of cool and super likable. And this is Kurusu, and you get to know her a bit, and you see how hard she's working and how stressed she is and how she's like, I just want to be a good worker because this means so much to me and I don't want to let my boss down because I think she's really cool. And then she goes to her boss at one point and is like, I'm sorry, like I'm trying my best and like I'm almost there, but this is something I just can't do and I'm sorry that I'm letting you down. And then her boss just gives her a hug and is like, dude, I'm sorry. that I didn't see how stressed you were. I didn't see that this is something that was out of your depth and I kind of forced you to do it. That's on me as your boss. I will get someone else to help you with this. You have been doing such a good job. It's okay. It's like, man, I actually really liked these couple episodes. Huh. You mean when it wasn't focusing on the leads or their shitty romance, the show was kind of good? That's not a good sign. And speaking of it not focusing on the leads and their shitty romance and it being kind of good, I have to talk about my favorite part of the show, and that's Hayakawa. She's fantastic. So that is the MC's childhood friend, co-worker, that early on people are like, hey, are you two a thing? Because you guys are really close, you're very casual with each other. Like, no, we've known each other forever, we've been besties forever. There is nothing between us, and there genuinely isn't. You get this episode from her perspective, I think it's like episode 4 or 5, when it starts off and she's in cosplay that she made, where she's got like a kimono on and like these like foxtails. Like, oh, this is actually really cool. And she ends up running into the manager and she's like, oh fuck, I did not want anyone from the office to see me like this. Like, MC knows that I'm an otaku, but he doesn't know how deep it is. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, I'm so embarrassed. And the manager just goes like, huh, that's really cool. And they start to connect, not because he's also this otaku, but because he's like, this is shit that you're really passionate about? This is cool. This is super neat. I want to learn more about it. I want to learn more about you. And from his perspective, he's not being romantic. Like, he'll sell her like how, like, it's like, no, you're like, this looks really cute on you. You're very cute. And again, like, for a manager to say that about his employee, it is weird. But he's also not meaning anything, but he's just trying to be a nice guy. And then she gets really flustered. I'm like, this is actually kind of endearing. And there's this line I wrote it down, when she's talking about this person she has a crush on, that being the manager. Because that's like this meet cute when she's about to go, sorry, I just remember Gravity Falls and the Giffany episode. Or is it Giffany? I don't really know. And when Seuss meets his girlfriend, I can't remember her name. I want to say it's Melanie. I feel like it's Melanie or something close to that. I could look that up. I do have a thing in front of me. Hold up. Now that I brought it up, I kind of have to do it. Okay, Gravity Falls, Giffany episode. Anyways, my point is, she's working at like a food stand called Meat Cute, MEAT, and like, I think that joke is hilarious. Like, I absolutely adore that. Is it Melody? So okay, I knew I was close. Anyways, Melody has the Meat Cute shirt. They have a meet, and like, she's adorable, and I love Seuss. It's great. My point being, they have this meet cute wherein she is about to get interviewed for a job, but her heel breaks, and so this dude comes up to her and is talking to her, and he helps her fix the shoe, and they go their separate ways. And then, when she goes to interview, he's one of the people that interviews her, and then she got the job, and like, it's sweet, it's adorable, and ever since then, she's kind of had a bit of a crush on him, and getting to know him more, she's like, okay, I still kind of have that crush on him, and I think he's a genuinely good boss, and he's someone who's actively interested in my hobbies, and that's really cool. But he's also kind of a weirdo, and the way she describes her feelings is she says, you know, like, that's the thing about fireworks. The thing about fireworks is that they're pretty at a distance. And I thought that was actually really interesting. It's pretty at a distance. And then when you get closer and you start to know the person, you're like, I don't know anymore, Chief. Like, holy shit, that's actually a really interesting concept. I think for a romance, it's like, yeah, it's like we had this one interaction. It was really sweet. And at a distance, this is someone I'm really interested in. And then the more I get to know them, the more they let their guard down, I'm not as sure anymore. Like, I still like them. They're still very nice. But, and not in like a creepy horror yandere kind of way. It's like, I don't know. They're just off enough that I'm starting to have my doubts. I'm starting to see you as human. Eternal Sunshine, thank you. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, I feel like is very similar in that regard, where fireworks are pretty at a distance. And then when they get closer, it's like, maybe this doesn't quite work. And they forget each other and they do it again. And, you know, they're an Ouroboros eating themselves. And it's great. It's a fantastic fucking movie. Also, there's this one bit when she's working on a boy love doshin and she's trying to get the manuscript done. He's like, dude, I'll help you. And she's like, I really need the help, but also I don't want to. Like, it's genuinely like what's all the shit I was saying about a rom-com? I want it to be funny. Wait, I think she's an actually funny character. I want to be invested in the character. Like, I want them to be interesting. And at the very least, I think the firework angle, like, this is actually something kind of interesting. It's like, I want to root for the couple. Like, it's genuinely, like, kind of cute enough and sweet enough that I am. Wait, why is the side romance, like, actually something good when the main one is so bland and so boring? What the hell? So, in conclusion, My Tiny Senpai is at its best when it is not focusing on the leads or their romance. The couple episodes about the office politics I actually thought were really interesting. Whenever it's focusing on Hayakawa, I think it's genuinely funny and actually being a decent rom-com. For being a workplace slice of life, there's a couple episodes where it kind of nails it. The rest of the show doesn't do it very well. As a rom-com or a waifu sim, I don't think it's very good because I don't think Shiori is that interesting. I wouldn't recommend it. I really, after 56 minutes, I think you can kind of tell, man, this is 56 minutes. I wouldn't recommend it. But I referenced a lot of other shows here that I know I would. I mean, I've never really seen Uzaki, but I 1000%, I cannot recommend enough watching Shirobako or watching Soccer Quest. I really, really remember loving Toradora. I actually don't think I finished Ore Monogatari. Like, I was watching it weekly, and then I think I, like, kind of got behind on something, and I don't think I ever quite finished. But I watched most of it. I remember really enjoying it. So that's this. This video is now done. Hooray. That's it.